Hi everyone, today we will talk about the 4 worst machine guns. In the meantime, subscribe to the channel. Your voice is important and needed. Feel free to leave your opinion in the comments. Our hit parade is opened by Italian Breda Modello 30 machine gun for 6 and 5 by 52mm Mannlicher Carcano cartridge. The designers successfully hid their madness behind the complexity of the product. It was a short-stroke automatic weapon, with a 20-round magazine on the right side of the gun, which could be loaded with a clip. It was tilted forward, but not detached. There was an opening on top of the magazine to see how much ammunition was consumed, which was certainly convenient. Although it could be closed, dust still got in, and further, each cartridge was automatically coated with oil, so that it would not seem small. It was impossible without oil. The designers decided that a hot cartridge case would have a lot of friction. The cartridge chamber walls and primary extraction were also problematic. Dust and oil only added to the abrasiveness. During frequent firing, the oil ignited and the machine gun smoked like a steam engine. Cooling was also poor. The gun was fired with the bolt closed, which interfered with air circulation. Because of the high temperature, the machine gun could fire involuntarily. Since the firing mode was only automatic, the machine gun kept firing until it ran out of ammunition, and they were scarce. The weapon wore out quickly and often jammed. Its design is worth mentioning. A lot of protrusions and sharp corners turned the carrying into a series of abrasions and bruises. Machine gunners among the soldiers could be identified by the abundance of profanity. They enriched their vocabulary considerably. The machine gun was guaranteed to cling to clothes and everything you could, and sometimes even to what you called an tea. At least it had an interchangeable barrel, in theory. In practice, there were no convenient handles for changing the barrel, and how the Italians took the hot barrel remains a mystery. Since the barrel was removable, the front sight was not attached to it. It was not a problem, you could shoot it, but the new barrel turned out to be untargeted. The rate of fire of such a complex mechanism was low. In dusty Africa, the Breda became a curse for Italians. It required constant cleaning. In terms of fire efficiency, it was comparable to the usual semi-automatic rifle. At one time they even tried to switch to the 7.35mm Carcano cartridge. In general, its technological complexity did not correspond to its low efficiency. Swedish machine gun Kulsprutig RM 1940. The story of its appearance is as murky as the machine gun itself. On November 22, 1933, a Swedish patent was issued for an automatic weapon designed by German Hans Lahus of Magdeburger Maschinenfabrik. However, the patent was issued to Swedes, and on September 19, 1935, 2 years later, the same product was granted a German patent in the name of Hans Loff, the manager of Knorr-Bremse Berlin. This company specialized in braking systems for railroads and cars. It would have been better if they had continued to deal with brakes. The Leitch 33 handgun had a lot of shortcomings, so by 1935 it was finalized to the Leitch 36 version, as much as they could, and not very well. The secret is that during the Versailles restrictions, Germany sometimes built weapons in third countries. That should have been the end of the story. However, despite its inferiority, the machine gun still entered service in Germany as the MG 35-36. At that time, the CC were not friends with the Wehrmacht, and were equipped on a residual principle. So, in order to have some weapons, they paid attention to this machine gun. But they should have looked earlier. Issues: the quality of workmanship appeared to be poor. The buttstock came loose quickly. It was impossible to hold the machine gun with the other hand. The bottom of the barrel was uncovered and it got hot when firing. The magazine for only 25 rounds of 7 and 92 rounds of 57mm Mauser was attached to the left side of the gun. The safety was unreliable. An accidental discharge could occur on impact. As a result, the MG 35-36 was immediately sent to training units, and in 1943 it was abandoned altogether. But in 1940 Sweden decided to adopt it. What was their motive? It is unclear. It was a shameful page in the Swedish army. The machine gun was modified. It was converted to the 6 and 5 by 55 mm cartridge, removed the single fire mode which was in the German version. The magazine was reduced to 20 rounds. It immediately disappointed everyone who would have doubted it. In 1943 it was written off, and after the war they tried to forget about its existence. Japanese machine gun Type 11 Nembu. Developed by the famous Japanese designer Kijiro Nembu in 1922 on the basis of the French Hotchkiss M1909. From it was taken gas-operated and air-cooled. The main trick and curse of this machine gun is feeding. The removable hopper-held rifle magazines with 6 and 5 to 50 mm cartridges from the Arisaka Type 38 rifle. It could be refueled without taking a break from firing. How did it work? The cartridges were placed horizontally and locked by a spring lever. The cartridges were extracted one by ratchet mechanism. The empty clip was ejected and the next one was inserted in its place. 6 magazines for 5 rounds, 30 rounds in the hopper. In theory, ingenious, no need for magazines or ribbons. Soldiers can toss ammunition directly while firing, a dream for logistics. In practice, a nightmare. The gas vent was too weak, so each round was lubricated with oil from a built-in pump. Low rate of fire was required to make the mechanism work. Dust, dirt, sand, and grass went into the open hopper. Oil plus dirt equals an abrasive mixture. Machine gun jammed constantly. Shell casings were torn during extraction. The rifle cartridge was too powerful for the short barrel, so there was a huge flash. The powder did not burn in time. Special machine gun cartridges with a smaller powder charge had to be made, and unification was lost. Additional joys. The loaded hopper overweighed the machine gun to the left. To compensate for this, the buttstock was bent to the right, and the sight was moved there as well. In attack it was almost impossible to reload. You had to manually stuff the magazines. Bottom line, Type 11 was hated even more than the Breda 30. The Japanese called it a samurai bucket and dreamed of something normal. French Hotchkiss M1915. No exaggeration, it was legendarily bad. Developed in 1915 by French Colonel Louis Hotchkiss, designer Charles Suter and technologist Paul Ribirol. Cartridge, 8-hole and 5/10 mm or label. Manufacturer, Gladiator Bicycle Company. They made better bicycles. Why is he so bad? Manufacturing quality, below the baseboard. Stamping from thin tin plate. Parts are not interchangeable. Each manufacturer has its own tolerances. Bent tubes instead of normal receiver. Design geniuses. Uncomfortable pistol grip. Second grip is too close to the first grip. The bipods are too high, only comfortable for shooting at airplanes. Open bolt tube, could blow out shooter's eye during recoil. Sight is shifted to the left so that it does not hit the shooter's face. The automatic rifle was just bad as hell. It worked due to the long barrel travel. Fired with the bolt open, all that metal flying back and forth, making aiming impossible. The bullets went down and to the right when fired. It overheated after 80,120 shots, barrel wedged in the casing. The magazine is the main enemy of the soldier. Half moon to fit label cartridges, open at the bottom, dirt could get inside. The tin was bent by hand. The cartridges would skew. 40 of machine guns were rejected at the factory. For the Americans they made a modification for the 7.62 by 63 mm cartridge, but it often jammed in the box magazine, and the cartridge case was not friendly with the correct dimensions, so it wedged or burst the cartridge case. How it was possible to make a machine gun without correctly dimensioning the cartridge remains a mystery. The Americans rejected 40% of the machine guns at the Gladiator factory, and the other 60% they cursed in battle and simply gave up the nightmare product in favor of the M1903 Springfield rifle. And what is interesting is that General Pershing did not allow American bar rifles, which were in stock and clearly superior to the French machine gun, to the front lines. And he did this before the situation was clearly already tilted toward victory over Germany. The general did not want the Germans to copy the rifle bar. As a result, the Americans suffered with the twentieth until the situation became critical. After the war, French weapons experts studied the combat use of the twentieth machine gun and shuddered. 2/3 of the machine gun failures were due to the magazine. Soldiers even oiled the magazine inside to prevent the label cartridge from jamming. But then the dust would kick in and it would get worse, and one problem turned into another. Often the first two cartridges were not loaded because of the problematic feeding of the cartridge when the magazine was fully loaded. Shots were constantly going down and to the right. It was impossible to keep the target on the target with giant bipods for a long time, so we shot in very short bursts. In general, because of the failure of this machine gun, killed a lot of soldiers. It was hated more than the enemy. Bottom line, twentieth is the ultimate champion of inferiority. Everyone hated him, and the French tried to forget about him like a nightmare. Conclusion: these machine guns are a prime example of how not to make a weapon. The Breda 30, Kolsprutegev RM, 1940. Type 11 Nambu and twentieth have gone down in history as weapons that killed their owners more often than their enemies. If you liked it, give us a like, subscribe and tell us in the comments which of these machine guns you think is the craziest. If you make bicycles, don't make machine guns.